I'm Kelly Lewis.
And I'm Tiffany Jones, and we're your Revenue Insiders.
If you're enjoying the Revenue Insiders, we'd love your support. Follow us, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you.
Hello. Welcome to an episode of the Revenue Insiders with just your two Revenue Insiders.
And this time we actually have a mic that works.
Yeah. I don't think we've shown anyone that snafu from an earlier recording.
Yeah, we should talk about that at some point.
It's painful.
We recorded an entire episode without working mic.
It just like screeches in the background the whole time. It's very upsetting. We'll re-record that one.
I think that room we were in a hotel room in Denver. It was probably haunted.
We were
at the Brown Palace.
It was haunted.
That's we're going to blame that it was haunted.
Yes.
But today we have a fun topic.
Yes. Imposter syndrome.
I love talking about this topic.
I mean, I don't know that I love this topic.
Oh, I do.
I mean, I don't love it because I feel it all the time. And I think that that's like one of the reasons we have to talk about it is because everyone feels imposter syndrome. Maybe not all the time. Sometimes like you get into work and you feel like a badass that day. But yeah, I mean, most of the time I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome.
I love talking about it solely because I feel like there are individuals that think they're the only ones with it. And so I just think it's so healthy to talk about the realities. And I think you and I have a unique perspective. Both of us became VPs in our early 30s.
Yeah. True.
And so we felt this significantly. I felt it my entire career, which we will talk about at different points of this episode. I don't know. I saw something recently where some lady said she never feels it. And that is amazing. And I love it for anyone who never feels imposter syndrome. But for the other 99.9% of us, let's get real about how we tackle it.
I question if that's even true. Like maybe you haven't labeled it correctly and like you're calling it something else. It's nerves, it's uncertainty, it's taking a step out of your comfort zone. Like all of that, like elicits this imposter syndrome, which is really how I would define imposter syndrome is when you are in a position that someone has given you the power to be in that spot, but you think that you have not earned it or you think you're not capable of it. And that's that specific feeling that I think of when I think of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of, do I deserve to be here? Have I earned it? And a little bit of, can I show up in the right way?
Can I show up? Yeah. Can I do it? Not like maybe I've earned it, but can I do it now that I've said it? I'm certainly not feeling like any imposter syndrome with my new promotion and new job.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about that yet. Yes. Tiffany, if you follow Tiffany on LinkedIn, you should. Got a phenomenal promotion to SVP. I am so proud of her. We all should be proud of her. It is very well deserved. Her scope has increased. And it's going to make the topics on here even more interesting.
Yeah, but I'm taking on marketing operations as part of this role. And I was talking to the new person who's joining my team, who's new to our company as well, leading marketing operations. And like, this is not my area of expertise. And I'm not going to like pretend it is. I'm going to learn a lot about it. I certainly know some things on marketing operations, but oh man, the imposter syndrome, like every day of like, well, I have to like lead some thought leadership and work today on a topic that I'm not an expert in. It's real. Imposter syndrome's real.
But I think it's good to remember you don't have to know everything. That's why you hire really smart people around you. Or if you're not a people leader, you surround yourself with smart people.
It's our conversation with Andy in the last episode, right?
Totally.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that's what I have to remind myself. And I think no matter what stage of career you're at, like that is part of the reminder is no one put you in this role because they think you know all of the answers. They think you can do everything on your own. No one's expected to do everything on their own at any point in their career.
Yeah. I also think this is a go-to-market show, a business-to-business go-to-market show for the most part. And I do think imposter syndrome does show up significantly broader in our area. And so I know from my own experience, I started off in marketing, had no clue what I was doing, and then moved into sales, also had no clue what I was doing.
The theme. We actually don't know what we're doing.
We fake it, but then we make it. It's fine. But I think I like look back at the first time I really felt the imposter syndrome, and it was when I was in sales, and I was 24 selling to CEOs. Yeah. And I remember doing crazy things to get myself the confidence I needed. I'd play like crazy music in my car before the meetings to like pump myself up. someone once told me to like wear my hair up versus down because it would make me look older.
I remember that advice.
Oh, like the crazy things.
Yeah.
And I'm even showcasing some of it today. I'm wearing a leather jacket. So I
gotta feel cool.
don't ever feel cool. I'm not cool.
Our kids remind us of that all the time.
Kids are a good reminder of that.
Yeah.
But like I always see these badass women on stage and they're wearing leather jackets, like Kelly Wright, for example. She's got like a red leather jacket. She's on stage, former CRO of Tableau. Cool. And I'm like, I can't pull that off. And so today, since we're talking about imposter syndrome, I was like, I'm going to wear a leather jacket.
Oh, I love that.
The episode taping.
I didn't know that.
Is my normal fit would be a blazer.
Yes.
It is my comfort. It's like little kids have their like stuffies that they carry around. I have my comfort water bottle and my comfort blazer. And I'm in a leather jacket today. So I'm just
I love it.
It up, y'all.
I love it. I mean, yes, imposter syndrome and go-to-market is so real. I mean, it's at all layers, but just the idea of having a quota and like you have to reset your wins every month, every quarter, every year, whatever cadence you're on, and having to like, you proved yourself and now you have to go prove it all over again. Like I've never carried a quota and I don't think I have the stomach for it, honestly. Listen, life is all about selling. I can sell a lot of things. I sell vegetables to my children. I'm not always successful. I sell projects and initiatives like internally and cross-functionally. And it's all about relationships. But like the idea of having to reset and prove yourself with different customers or clients, especially in a hunter role, or even the changeover that happens when you're in like an account management style role, that is ripe for constant imposter syndrome, even when your day-to-day job isn't changing. Like I'm a difficult customer to work with at some of the time, not all the time.
If you're her vendor, don't comment.
So sorry. I just expect a lot, but I imagine like someone who's like younger in their career and I just like, I come in and I'm like, nope, I don't like anything you said. I want these 5 things. Like I don't need, like it's not directed at the individual. It's directed at what I need as a vendor, but I can't imagine being on the other side and like having a quota and having to like go secure the renewal or secure, an upsell from someone who like all of a sudden you have a new personality that's like way different to work with than you were before in this account. Yeah. Imposter syndrome just is all over the go-to-market space.
So as a former seller, yes. And I think the other thing that's hard for both sellers and if you're in marketing, if you're in RevOps, you're in enablement, the game is constantly changing in go-to-market.
Yes.
I just read an article this morning. I sent it to you, by the way, in LinkedIn.
I didn't read it.
It's about...
Oh, I saw that message.
Yes,
I haven't read it yet.
It's about CEOs and how they're feeling about go-to-market and revenue right now. And it's basically like the game is changing again. We need to reconsider how it's changing again. And I just think about that over and over again. Okay, so now we've got to change how our sellers are thinking about it. We've got to talk about how our marketing plans need to change. We need to talk about how we update our AI strategy. Yeah. And so when things are constantly changing, there's always the, how do I stay up to speed? How do I keep myself there?
Yeah. And it's a constant imposter syndrome at that point of like, I was the best 5 years ago, like, but all these people are using all these AI tools, like maybe under the radar from their RevOps team or, whatever might be happening. But like, and they have an edge now and like you're constantly reinventing yourself. And that's true outside of go-to-market, but the stakes are just so high when you're the leading edge of any company's growth and trying to drive the revenue aspect.
So we talked about a lot about what imposter syndrome is and how it's impacted us. Can you talk about how you deal with it? Because I think we all deal with it differently. And I think hearing other people's experiences and how they deal with it is so important.
Yeah, there's a few specific things that I do. And I've had the benefit of having executive coaching over my career. I know you have as well. I don't have one right now. But there's a few things that I do that I think are really helpful. First thing that I do, I got from this book around emotional intelligence, and it's around grounding yourself. You have this voice in your head that's actually not your friend. It tricks you into thinking like it's reminding you of all the things you're doing wrong or letting you know to be anxious about things. But when you take a step back, you realize like that's not serving you in any way to be anxious or to remember that you're like think you're failing at something or remind you what you're doing or not doing. And one of the tips in the book is to, and we'll link I'll get the book so we can link it directly in some of the stuff we share, but is to ground yourself. And if you look around any room, you'll notice that there are quite a few people that do this trick. And it's just like physically touching you're like, if you're watching the video, like I'm tapping my fingers together. You have to do it 10 times for 10 seconds. And I do it like below my desk in meetings, like when I'm feeling like overwhelmed, and it helps you ground yourself away from the voice that's like, and if you think about it, it's sitting somewhere. You can place it in your head. Like you can think about where it's coming from. And it helps remove you from that voice and really like center you in the now, which really helps. Imposter syndrome is a lot of what's happening in your head and not what's actually happening in front of you. That tip helps me a lot. I use it frequently. I think the other thing that helps, and it's sort of synonymous with like picturing everyone in their underwear, but like no one's actually looking that closely at you. They're all doing the same thing you're doing, which is they're in their head. Every person in the room is in their own head, like thinking, am I showing up well enough as an executive to this? Am I contributing enough? Am I letting my employee contribute enough? Like I'm multitasking? Can I move this meeting that's actually double booked in 30 minutes that someone just pinged me about? Like people are doing 100 things, and specifically looking at you and questioning everything you're doing in every moment is probably not one of those things. Like they're looking at you holistically, but like it's very easy in the moment to get wound up into that. And so I think that remembering that helps me a lot of the times as well.
I just started a new project. So I've got a couple consulting
So
companies.
speaking of being proud, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. So back to making an income.
Yes.
Yay.
The dream.
But I was working with the consulting team, and this is a new dynamic for me. I'm used to being a people leader and managing those around me. And now I am one of a group. And so I found myself, and I just blurted it out awkwardly because I can be really awkward. In the middle of the meeting, I go, am I talking too much?
I love that.
But I like just realized that like in the middle of the meeting, like I was probably overpowering the conversation because I had a lot of ideas I was excited about. And I was used to going back to my natural habit of like kind of explaining what the next step should be versus like gathering that information as a team because we were all equals in that room. And so I called it out awkwardly, which to me is a kind of a coping mechanism. When I realize I feel imposter syndrome, I'm uncomfortable. I like to like just be really real about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like people react well to that because they know it's genuine.
Yeah, it's so authentic, right? Like, and it's to this whole conversation we're having. Like, the more you talk about it, like, the less power it has over you. And so I think, putting it, like, calling it out in the moment of saying, like, okay, whoa, I feel like, was that too much? Like, or like sometimes I say things and I feel like I jumble my words when I get to the end. I'm like, I don't know that I made the point I wanted. So it's helpful to just say, like, did that, like, not in a like demeaning sense, but like, did everyone get that? Like, was I clear enough there? Like, and half the time everyone's like, yeah, I totally got it. And we move on. And it was all in my head to begin with.
But it makes you seem more genuine. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
One of the other things that when I was thinking about this episode that we were going to record, that my executive coach, Rahila, she did the Wicked episode. If you listen to that one, she's wonderful. She's been coaching me a lot through this transition of working in corporate America to starting my own business. And there were a couple of moments that I was really scared to use the word, I'm a founder. Have you used it yet?
I have. I introed you in an email and I said, my co-founder and I.
Yeah. So it took me a while to get there because what we're doing is very different than a typical SaaS company that I've worked for.
It doesn't feel like a startup, but it is. Yeah.
So I was working with a former CEO. I was on a call with him and I was like, I said the word founder and it came out of my mouth and I must have blurted it. Again, you're getting that I'm very awkward. I blurted it in a weird way.
Kelly breaks a lot of things out
fast. And he like stopped me and he goes, Kelly, you are a founder and you should own that. And so I talked to Rahila, my wonderful executive coach, about it, and she coached me through it. And now when I wake up in the morning, just to make sure I have the right confidence I need and I don't feel an imposter in what I'm doing, I say, I'm Kelly Lewis and I'm the co-founder of the Revenue Insiders. And do you know what? Completely has changed. I started getting all the business. We started getting all these deals. Our brand is evolving. It's great. It's a mindset thing.
Yes.
And so just her coaching me to like figure out how to say it confidently was kind of the thing I needed to get out of my imposter syndrome.
It's so funny because we haven't talked about this story either, but I got my promotion. It was about a week ago and I had my first like company all hands call and I had like a 5-minute presentation during the call and we introduced ourselves at the beginning. And it was the first time that I said out loud, like, I'm Tiffany Jones and I'm SVP of go-to-market operations. And like, I giggled when I said it because it felt so like awkward. Like I don't need to assert myself at a certain level of like title, but like it was the first time I was saying it out loud. And so if you work with me, like now you know that tidbit about how that went down. I was also like at a WeWork and I had taken a red eye and like
she hasn't gotten a lot of sleep recently.
It was an exhausting like day, but I like giggled as I said it because I had to like, I think it's a little bit of imposter syndrome and I wasn't taking myself seriously. And so like I almost like laughed at myself, which is something I think a lot of people do. Kind of going back to our topic is like as a coping mechanism is like you sort of like laugh at yourself or you make yourself less serious to like combat it.
And I think some people will say don't do that because then people are not. And I'm a little iffy on it.
I mean, I think be authentic. Like that.
Authentic.
So like giggle and then say out loud, like, sorry guys, like I'm not like that felt bigger than like it needed to be, or like I'm not ready to say that. Like just be transparent, be authentic. And I think that's the takeaway versus like, laughing at yourself like can definitely at the end of the day start to diminish like the power you hold a little bit if you use it as a crutch all the time. For sure. It almost gives your imposter syndrome power over time versus like being comfortable. I like your like mantra in the morning of like, I'm a founder. Yeah.
I think there's also a thing about admitting when you're having imposter syndrome to the people around you that support you.
Yes.
I'm not going to say her name because I did not get permission, but I had a colleague at HighSpot who just got promoted to VP from senior director, very much deserved. And we were going into our first ELT meeting. And I said to her, how are you feeling about this? Are you excited? And she looked at me, big eyes, and said, I've got major imposter syndrome. And it was so helpful for me to know that going in, because then I could make space for her to speak. I could check in on her in meetings, these ELT meetings. It was an offsite. It was 3 days. So during the breaks, I'd go up and be like, how you feeling? Do you need like more room to talk? Is this overwhelming? So I could check in on her, and we were peers, but I think it was probably helpful for her. And it was helpful for me as her friend and peer to know that, hey, I'm struggling a little bit here, but I would love for you to know that like, ooh, this is how I'm feeling it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, even when people aren't new to the role, they still have imposter syndrome in some categories. I was in an offsite a few weeks ago and I'm not going to put on anyone that they had imposter syndrome, but like, I like to show up like you in like a blazer, jeans, heels. Like I love a dressed up look, especially when I'm in a WeWork or like traveling. It's just fun. I don't do it a lot at home and I enjoy doing it.
She's wearing leggings. You can't see them. We should judge her.
I'm just kidding. Judging me?
Kidding. I thought we were going to be in stool, so I wore jeans and now I'm really mad I'm not in comfy pants. Yeah, so I'm just jealous.
I sit behind my computer all day. But no, we were at this offsite and I was dressed a little nicer. And someone else who's another badass that I work with, like walked in the room for breakfast for the offsite. And she's like, oh man, like I missed the memo. Like you look so great. And I was like, oh, I just want I now feel uncomfortable because like I'm too overdressed, but like I own it because this is how I want to wear. And so it's funny, like we have these constant moments, no matter what phase of your career you're at, we were just constant questioning, like did I show up the right way? Am I doing the right thing? Did that comment make sense? Am I in the right role? Like all of it is just constant. It has nothing to do with like, you feel it maybe more in moments of change, like a promotion or like having to say the word founder, but you feel it all the time too.
I will also say that you and I are pretty confident individuals.
Yes.
So I actually don't associate confidence with imposter syndrome. And I think that's a really good thing to separate.
Yeah.
You can feel imposter syndrome and still be really confident in the work you provide and the things you do.
Yes. I think that's totally true. This conversation right now, right, feels very natural for us to have. Like, I'm sure, like, I feel confident about the advice that we are giving or like the stories that we are sharing. But it doesn't mean like as we share it, on Spotify that we won't have some imposter syndrome. Like, do people want to hear what we have to say? That doesn't diminish the confidence we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Confidence is still very important and you should constantly work on that, but don't feel like you don't have confidence if you're experiencing imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because it happens in weird moments. It's not an overwhelming, always on thing.
Okay, we talked about a few of the tips I do.
Okay.
My finger tapping.
No, I'm going to start that.
What are your coping mechanisms for imposter syndrome?
Well, so we talked about one is I have my uniform. And I know that sounds silly, but I feel more confident if I'm wearing a jacket, a blazer, typically, not my badass leather jacket. Maybe I'll do this more. But I want to show up in a way that I feel really polished. I also get my nails done. And I know that's silly. I hate to talk about like how you're dressed or what you're doing, but that to me centers me in a way that I'm not thinking about those things. I'm just thinking about the conversation I'm having. The other thing that is interesting hearing your perspective on imposter syndrome and mine is mine doesn't show up typically in the meeting. Once I'm in the meeting, I'm actually pretty okay. It is the lead up to the meeting that causes me the anxiety and the imposter syndrome.
Interesting.
I feel like once I'm in the room, I'm just so tuned in that I mean, here and there, absolutely, but mine appears for me definitely more prior to the meeting. And so it's just around preparation. I think through like,
so interesting.
I think through what I'm about to say. What could people disagree with? And so I'm prepared for those type of comments. What's the worst thing that could happen? And then who gave us the advice? This is one of our guests. What's the best thing that could happen? Who was that guest?
Was it Bill?
I think it was maybe. I can't remember. We had a guest talk about this, and I actually have since adopted it. So think about what's the worst thing that could happen, but I also think about what's the best thing that could happen in this meeting. And it just puts me in a more positive headspace as I'm headed into the meeting, which probably means I don't have to think about it as much while I'm in the meeting.
So it's so interesting because I think it's based like imposter syndrome can mean so many things. And it's that you have it in like pockets of what you do. And so I'm a talkative person, which is why a podcast is a great add to the things that I do. But I recognize that I tend to talk over people or I also
have that problem. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm an active
listener. That was a bad dad joke.
I find that like while I'm active listening, I'm forming my response and I have to stop myself from like interjecting because I'm ready to like move it along and have the conversation. And so I think that's why in the meeting, I often find myself facing that imposter syndrome because that's when that like insecurity shows up for me or that thing that I'm so worried that everyone's judging me for. First, like the preparation side, like I feel super confident in like what I know and what I'm putting together. And if I don't, I also feel confident in saying like, I don't know what I'm talking about here or like calling that out and being authentic. It's the behavior pattern of speaking that I get really uncertain about how everyone's perceiving me and the seniority that I'm conveying when I'm speaking. So I think that's why it happens in meetings for me.
I do have that one. That's actually a good point. I do have the am I talking over people? Which they always say is such a man thing. And I love that the two of us have this problem.
Whoops.
Maybe it's a Kelly and Tiffany thing.
Yeah.
I also struggle for that, with that.
Yeah.
But you actually just said something that I think is really important too, is a tip to say, I'm not an expert here.
Yes.
Or if I'm have some imposter syndrome about what I'm presenting, I'll be really upfront that I'm an N of one. There are other opinions here and I want to hear them.
Yes.
So then when they start giving their opinions to me, it doesn't feel like an attack. I asked for it.
It's true. Well, and I think even when you don't like recognizing that the goal normally of that conversation is to get to the right answer. And it's okay if you weren't the person with the right answer, as long as you're still facilitating that long-term goal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's helpful. Again, like a lot of imposter syndrome, especially when I think back to, 10 plus years ago in my career, came from like feeling like I didn't have the right answer. I wasn't going to deliver things accurately. I was going to have an error in my Excel formula that was going to screw up all of the planning. Everyone's on the same team. Like the goal isn't for you to be perfect or to be a robot or to always be 100% accurate. It's to be an authentic member of the team and driving everyone forward. And sometimes that means being like, hey, like I put this together, but I actually am not sure about like if this met the goal of what you were looking for. And so like, let me know if you have questions as you review it and I'll walk you through methodology. So if I missed it, like, let's go back. And then again, it's a team player type mentality and not like I have everything on my shoulders and feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
So in a recent episode with Andy Champion, he's so great. We talked a lot about psychological safety and creating a safe space for your team. I know this is something you're hyper focused on and you try very intentionally to create that atmosphere.
Yes.
How do you do that? Because I do think that impacts how your teams handle dealing with imposter syndrome.
It does. I mean, I think it's when I think back to the great leaders I had that like I was able to grow through what was maybe imposter syndrome, it's because I had that psychological safety and I felt like I had someone who was on my side, not just like leading me through or telling me what to do. Like they were in my corner. And so I try to be that type of leader. And so for me, that looks like, Andy gave a lot of great tips. And so definitely listen to that episode if you haven't yet, because he has a number of fantastic, like actionable things to do here. But what I do typically is one, I leave a lot of awkward silences. Like I tell my team, like I want conversation in team meetings. I want you to speak up. I acknowledge when I speak over people and I say, hey, I know I just like dove into this, like so and so, like I'm not like I'm gonna defer to you now. Like I want to get my opinion out, but like not in service of not having yours. So like now I want to defer to you. So I'm conscious and accountable to the things I know that I do because they are different when I manage up versus manage down, right? I don't want to overpower my team. The other thing I do is check in on people one on one. I said this in that episode with Andy. I think how you show up individually is what creates psychological safety. It's when you check in and say, like, hey, I noticed you were really quiet in that meeting. Like, I think that you have a lot of information on this topic. Is there a reason you didn't speak up? Or is there a reason I didn't hear from you? Was I too loud in that conversation? Or I stepped in and didn't let you speak because that was going the wrong direction. I didn't want you to take the fall for it. So, but I want to make sure you have ownership here. And that one-on-one, like, and it's not just the one-on-one conversation, it's not just about like deferring back to the meeting, but also knowing that your team believes that you care about them as a holistic person, like their career growth, who they are as a person. That's where psychological safety starts. It's checking in and saying, like, hey, I know that you've had all these things going on. Like, are you sure you're up for working today? Like, can you take a pause? Like, I'm totally fine with it. If you need it, just let me know. Like those type of moments that are unrelated to imposter syndrome and meetings and the work that's happening are also so important for building the psychological safety that's required.
Absolutely. The only other thing I'd add that I think can be really helpful, and we forget this because everyone's working so fast, is you're giving a team member a new task and they might not know what good looks like. So they don't
Yes.
necessarily, clear as kind is one of my other sayings, but they
Yeah.
might not have the complete clear expectations of what good looks like. And in those scenarios, I oftentimes say in our next one on one, or do you want to set up 30 minutes? And do you want to just review this just one on one
Yeah.
ahead of the larger meeting?
Yes.
So they're not going into the meeting completely blind and they've got some perspective from you on how you're going to react and how you think your peers are going to react. And it's hard to sometimes create space for that stuff. But I just know that I typically get the most imposter syndrome when I'm doing something for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't understand the expectations and I don't know the reactions in the room. And so
Yeah.
any type of coaching you can get can be really powerful.
Listen, it's great to have a fantastic leader, and whatever position you're in, you should think about who your leadership team is and if they're providing this for you. And there's
Yeah,
a choice to make. You can say, I'm not getting this from my leadership team and I'm going to leave. I'm going to look elsewhere because I deserve to have this type of psychological safety. And there are plenty of leaders out there that have this
totally.
approach. The other thing that you can do is say, I'm not getting this, but I can go build this. Like, let me muscle through it. Let me breathe through what's happening around me and get through this so that I can come out the other side a leader and then I have the power to build this and I can influence it. And you can also create that safety in a cross-functional way. It's
Totally.
not just a pure manager relationship that creates it. Being there for people cross-functionally you work with and other teams and knowing that you're a safe space to talk to, they're going to reciprocate that and that will start to elevate you in leadership conversations because you show up as a natural leader then. People recognize that out of you. So I think it's fantastic when you have leaders that offer this. I've certainly had points in my career when I've not worked for leaders like that. But there were still benefits in trying to learn my way through it.
Yeah, a lot of my career has been creating teams from scratch. And because of that, oftentimes, even when I was at that director level or senior manager level, they didn't know where to put me. And so I ended up reporting directly to the CEO in a lot of cases, which means I didn't get a lot of time. They were wonderful people and
Yeah.
great mentors, but they weren't the people I could go to with my day to day. Am I headed in the right direction questions? And so, to your point, I use my cross-functional peers all the time, whether
Yeah.
that was head of RevOps, head of sales,
Yeah.
or even people at my own level, other senior managers of sales, kind of asking them those questions. So I do think if you're in a situation where you really like the company, but you can get what you're not getting from your leader somewhere else, it's a great way to
Yeah.
go.
It's helpful. You have to, and you said this earlier, like you have to have your peers that you can lean on when you muscle through imposter syndrome. And that's even more important when it's not a leader that you have that really
Hmm.
helps you through it. We're all dealing with it.
Yeah.
Okay, Kelly, last question.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self who was dealing with imposter syndrome?
I think until the last few years, people didn't talk about imposter syndrome. And so one was explain what you're feeling to those mentors you have so that you can get feedback that it's normalized.
Yeah.
That's one thing I just didn't seek out. I kind of thought it was just me. And then I think the other thing would be it's all going to be okay. Actually, I think that's what it is. I have time on my side now to know that some of the times I was feeling imposter syndrome was because it just wasn't the right thing. I should have never been in marketing.
Yes.
Quickly learned that. Like, not a good writer. Thank God for AI. And number two, I think just like realizing that like your life and your career are going to have all of these crazy moments and pivots, and that's okay. It would be so helpful to know it's all.
Yeah. I think the first one's super important. Like everyone else is dealing with it. It's the tip I give, like, it's not thinking about everyone else wearing like it being in their underwear, like the old saying, but like realizing like everyone's not as hyper focused on you and exactly what you're doing in every moment as you think they are. They're looking at the holistic picture and realizing like you can take a step back and you're still accomplishing that. And so being concerned about individual things, like I would have pulled myself out of that. Stopped me from the episode that never had sound, networking well earlier in my career because I was so nervous about it. And I felt a lot of imposter syndrome about like introducing myself in certain ways. And so, yeah, I think that's a good one. Okay. One more.
I can't believe we didn't think of this and it hasn't come up yet. Apply for the job, even if you don't meet
gosh.
all
Please do.
the qualifications.
Please do.
Side note, but does have to do with imposter syndrome. So many people don't apply for the job because they don't meet all the qualifications. You never hire someone with all the qualifications ever, really, because you can't afford them.
I just wrote my own job description. I don't actually think I meet all the qualifications.
That's good. That's good.
And I didn't realize until after, like, we went through my promotion process and I reread it and I was like, oh, I'm not sure if those numbers work out exactly correctly, but yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes. Apply for the job, please. And you're in a sea of applicants and I don't know the games you need to play to get your, to stand out. I would say I'm doing a lot of hiring and like LinkedIn messages, like are one way that like I see something like I just applied and I think it'd be a great fit. I'd love like a 5-minute conversation. If you tell me I'm not, like I'm out, that's fine. I've actually, a few people have come through and I've responded and done that, but yeah, just apply for the job. What's the worst case? You get another connection, another recruiter knows your name. Yeah.
I know we're hiring a summer intern.
We are.
And no one has reached out on LinkedIn.
I know. No one on LinkedIn. Email us at admin@therevenueinsiders.com. Thank you, everyone. This was a great episode.
This is great.
I always love when we get to talk in person.
I know.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's so much more fun. All right. If you don't already follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, please do and give us a rating. We would really appreciate it. Ratings help us so much in the podcast world, and we want to reach more listeners like you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
If you're enjoying the Revenue Insiders, we'd love your support. Follow us, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you.